I'm back with my wonderful blurry screen, but today it's a little more obvious how messy my room is. I literally just got home from work and I don't make my bed and I'm a very restless sleeper. So yeah, the bed in the background sucks. I'm not going to keep that background. We're going to move on. So I had said I'd kind of done like an October TBR type thing, book haul. I had done that. And I had honestly not planned to read anything other than medieval fiction and nonfiction this month. But I remembered that Ken Follett's new book had come out, so I binged that one, finished it, 4 stars. I'm a huge fan of Ken Follett, both ironically and unironically. So I finished that one. Then I read a nonfiction, short nonfiction book, Weird Facts About the Middle Ages. Evidently nuns used to meow. Mass hysteria. So I'm coming to you this weekend with a little video where I'm going to read spooky childhood favorites. So these 4 books, because I'm behind my reading goal by 3 books, so I'm going to try to get 4 done. There we go. So I've got The Man Who Was Poe, The Dollhouse Murders, let's see, The Dollhouse Murders, The Egypt Game, there we go, and the worst cover I've ever seen in my life, Time for Andrew. This one's my favorite. This is not the cover it had. Let me see. There we go. This was not the cover it had when I read it. I'll put in an image of the actual cover. So since this is my favorite, we are going to start with this one. Roll that intro. Before I start reading, here is the blurb. See if I can keep this in focus while I read the blurb. In this spooky time travel tale from award-winning author Mary Downing Hahn, 11-year-old Andrew switches places with a ghost and travels back to the year 1910. Will he be able to fight his way back through time to reclaim his place in the present, or will the ghost steal his life and leave him trapped in the past forever? So yeah, I really loved this as a kid. And stories about why I read these books, I had an assignment in 6th grade where we had to read the Dollhouse Murders, The Egypt Game, or Time for Andrew. I read The Dollhouse Murders, and I liked it well enough. The other groups read Time for Andrew and The Egypt Game, and I, being the nerd that I was, became interested and got them and read them. Sentence of Time for Andrew before I go out and get all comfortable. Here we go. Reaction. Almost 20 years later. There it is. Dad slowed the car and pointed to a big brick house standing on a hill above the highway. From a distance, it looked empty, deserted, maybe even haunted. First 2 sentences. Can't wait to keep going. So in the vein of my other book, The Man Who Was Poe, already on page 2 of Time for Andrew, and I'm seeing things I didn't see as a child. He's going to stay in a creepy house with his Aunt Blythe. Listen to this. I sighed and leaned back in my seat, so he's in his car about to go see his aunt. No Martin for 2 whole months. Martin's a bully. Maybe Dad was right. Any place would be paradise compared to Camp Tecumseh. Even the House of Usher. So this kid's supposed to be 11 and he already knows about the House of Usher? That's a Poe story, by the way, about a house with a giant crack that splits in half and sinks, and What Moves the Dead is based on the fall of the House of Usher. So I'm impressed. You can see my high-tech video editing software back there, but on page 42, this might be even better as an adult. I couldn't remember why Drew switched places with his namesake, Andrew, from 1910, but it's because he found his set of prized marbles on the anniversary of the night Andrew died of diphtheria. So he came back and said, if you find these marbles, you'll be sorry. So Andrew came back for his marbles, but then realized if he went back to 1910, he would die. So they switch places to save Andrew's life with modern medicine. How cool is that? Of course, it kind of begs the question, when Aunt Blythe takes him to the doctor, he's gonna be like, wait, hold on. Why wasn't this kid vaccinated when he was born? Oh wait, he was vaccinated? Oh yikes, this isn't true. But you know, hey, 6th graders definitely don't think of that stuff. This book is probably even better as an adult despite that hideous cover. So we've got our two boys. Drew is the modern day boy, Andrew is the old boy, and this is a marble. So I remembered marbles and Ringer being a whole part of this, just that it was like a big thing. I didn't really know how much of an impact it had on the plot. And so Andrew and Drew have traded places. Drew now lives in 1910. Andrew lives in like 1994. That's when this book was published. But things I just kind of accepted when I was 11, like how they're meeting at the top of the stairs at the same time, and the time continuum isn't like messing up, or how Drew is seeing his modern day bedroom from the bottom of the stairs, but isn't able to get there. Somehow he always ends up in 1910. Stuff like that I did not question when I was 11, and you know what? I probably shouldn't question it now. I should just enjoy it, which I am. So while my guinea pigs go crazy, I'll update you on Time for Andrew. It is a misnomer. Time for Andrew is not a ghost story. It's a time slip story, which is way scarier than a ghost story because I feel like time slips could actually happen. I don't believe in ghosts. But Andrew and Drew are like dead ringers for each other, and Andrew is Drew's like great uncle, or great cousin, I think. And they're dead ringers for each other. Ringer, the game of marbles. But maybe that could happen for people who are like 100% Irish or 100% like, I don't know, Korean, where you could be like a dead ringer for somebody in your family. But when you're super mixed like me, like I'm mostly Irish, but also there's like Native American, there's some African, you know, there's German, there's French, obviously. My last name's Norman. I don't think there's anybody in my family that I could like trade places with and fool people. I'm told I look a lot like my grandmother, but my grandmother had blue eyes and brown hair, I think she had brown hair. I'm not sure. It was always gray when I knew her. My dad, which I look like, has blonde hair and blue eyes. I have red hair and brown eyes. Red hair I get from my mother, brown eyes I get from my mother, and I have my mother's nose. And obviously I have the curly hair, which comes from the African side. I have high cheekbones, which comes from the Native American side. So I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm so beautiful, because I'm just like the best of humanity. Well, Mary Downing Hahn has thought of it all. Andrew has made it home. Drew, not Andrew. Drew has made it home, and Aunt Blythe is worried. How do you feel this morning, Drew? Oh, I know it's silly to worry, but whenever you look the slightest bit off color, I'm afraid you're getting sick again. She stuck a thermometer in my mouth. Diphtheria. That was the last thing anyone expected. Like most modern children, you were immunized when you were a baby. The doctors were absolutely mystified. I'm sure they were. All done? Even better on the reread. 5 stars. Solid 5 stars. Hideous cover. Oh my god. So hideous. I'm gonna put this in my classroom, but I don't think anybody's gonna pick it up just because of how hideous this cover is. But I will go ahead and say I've been holding out a little bit. This was the first book I ever read in one sitting, and it's also the first book that ever made me cry. Am I crying now? No. But, you know, I'm not 11 anymore. But one thing I really liked about this book is that the ending was not drawn out at all. And I think that's just more common in middle grade books. And that was actually more common back in the olden days with movies. The denouement just came, and the end was the end, and you know, that was it. Big, long ride, swift ending, and that's just how I like it. So since the House of Usher was mentioned in this one, the next book I'm gonna read is The Man Who Was Poe. Let's get to it. I did not know this when I first began reading, but this is more of a mystery novel. And to be honest, I'm not loving it. It feels a little icky to me. We've got a little 11-year-old boy named Edmund who is waiting for his aunt to come back because his aunt took him from London to Baltimore, so he leaves his bedroom, leaves his sister there, locks the door, comes back, sister's gone, aunt's body is found in the river, and Mr. Dupin is looking for a story. He's obviously Edgar Allan Poe. He's given Edmund a fake name, and he's suffering from writer's block, and something about it is just making me really uncomfortable. And after thinking about it, I think the fact that this is a kid's novel narrated by an adult who is lying to a little boy is just giving me the creeps a little bit, and not in a good spooky way. I finished The Man Who Was Poe. I just completely stormed through it, and I'm not a huge fan. I don't really think it's fair of me to give this a star rating. Honestly, I don't remember much about it when I read it, but I do remember that I did read it. And it is a fictional portrayal of Edgar Allan Poe. I don't know that much about Poe in real life, honestly, because early American literature is never something I've loved. I do like The Fall of the House of Usher, but The Telltale Heart, The Raven, Annabelle Lee, all that, never really my thing. Mask of the Red Death, no. The Cask of Amontillado, not really. I do enjoy a good story about an obsessive writer, but this just didn't hit with me as a grown-up, so I'm not going to rate it, but it is time to move on to The Dollhouse Murders. Okay, so sort of hiding how messed up my room is, I am about 61 pages into The Dollhouse Murders, and this is actually my original copy from 6th grade, now that I think about it. You can look at how browned the pages are, and yep. Now you know my room number. My school room number, room 312, hello. I've heard a lot of YouTubers who have talked about this book say that it hasn't aged well, and I agree, but not for the reasons I believe they're saying it hasn't aged well. This book is about Amy. She's 12, almost 13. She has a sister who is brain damaged, and she is forced by her parents to watch her sister after school because they have to work. And we call this neglect nowadays. Amy is a neglected 12-year-old with too much responsibility, taking care of a sister who is portrayed to be like eternally a little kid. She's probably got an IQ, just a really low IQ, like 60 maybe, I don't know. But the word retard is used in here, and that's why I think people say that it hasn't aged well. But in the context, the way it's used, Amy is intentionally being really harsh on her sister and herself, and more of just her situation. So I'll read where the word is. So she has, she was with her friend, and she is scared that her friend has been scared away by her sister's behavior. Alright, I'm not sure if I can find it like actually in the book, but the girl, the friend whose name is Ellen, she's like, you know, if you don't have anything else to do, you can come by my house. And Amy's like, okay, I get it, no retarded sister wanted. Like, she wasn't being, like, she didn't mean it. And while it's never okay to call somebody a retard, I think in the context of this story and in the context of Amy's headspace, I don't think it's really offensive. Other ways it has not aged well. It takes place in 1982, and we know this because they say 1952 was 30 years ago, and it's got kids going to the mall, after school for fun, kids out riding their bike and meeting each other and calling each other on landlines. So it is definitely a retro junior high. So that's how it hasn't aged well, not by offensive language, because yes, the language was offensive, but it was meant to be offensive. So when I first read this book in 6th grade, looking back, I would probably, my 11, 12-year-old self, have given this 3.5 stars. Now I'm enjoying it more as an adult. It's very clever. You know, poor Amy didn't know how her great-grandparents died. She finds out that they were murdered, and now the dolls in the dollhouse, that her aunt, it's like an exact replica of her aunt's house. Why is it always a creepy aunt's house? But it's the exact replica of her aunt's house, and they're reenacting the murder, and the aunt is freaked out. The aunt's boyfriend died. That's why she never married. There's a lot to this book in a tiny little package, which is probably why I'm liking it more now as an adult, but this is very dark. Since we're talking about nostalgia, and I just realized I need more bookmarks, I did what any reasonable 30-year-old woman would do. I went and bought Pokemon cards. So if I get any good pulls of these, I'll set them aside, and the energies and the other crap I'll use as bookmarks. Alright, so these are the 2 pulls I got. I'm keeping these along with the ones that have the code so I can play online. And now I have a bunch of bookmarks. As you can see, I'm lying here in my bed with the Dollhouse Murders. And I just took my sleeping pills, so I'm probably gonna fall asleep fairly soon. I'm pretty close to being done. I'm on page like 110 of 100 and not even 50, like 149. And I gotta say, it's not that intriguing as it was before, because I'm starting to get to the parts where I remember better. And I honestly remember that the ending was really random and one of those endings that just came out of nowhere. So I'm gonna speed through it, and then I'll give you my final thoughts when I'm done. Welcome from my classroom. So I finished this, and I said when I was a kid, back in my classroom as a kid, oh, things come full circle. I would have given this 3.5 stars, and I think as an adult I still am. I was saying I was liking it more as an adult, but really I was seeing things I didn't see when I read this when I was 11 or 12. I can't remember what time of year it was, probably Halloween. But the elements I recognized as an adult were no more enjoyable than when I read it as a child. But I will say, I will not give away the ending, but the secret to the Dollhouse Murders lies in a doll's house. So it has actually been a couple of days since I last vlogged, and in that time I have turned 31 years old, and I have also endured a terrible migraine, actually one of the worst migraines I've ever had in my life. That was on October 12th. I was throwing up, I was peeing myself, I was doing a lot of very not pretty things, slurring my speech, just stuff that happens in the midst of a migraine attack. And I still haven't really recovered from it, so that's why it's been a while. It's October 14th now, and I still have not finished this vlog, but I did start the Egypt game finally, and it's just really charming. The kids call playing imagination games, and they're gonna start. We've met the main characters, and I just can't wait for them to get to Egypt, so hopefully I'll have most of my mind back. I'm still suffering some of the side effects that come from a severe migraine attack, like blurry vision and like foggy mind. So trying to get over that, but it's really helping to read. Game 2 of the ALCS today, and the Rangers are stressing me the hell out, so I thought I'd give you an update. I will finish the Egypt game today, and it's so clever. Their little ceremony for the dead was amazing, and I really think the author captured exactly how kids play. This is how I played back then with my imagination, and it's kind of a myth that kids don't do this anymore because of all our high-tech equipment, and that's just not true. No matter what happens, you will never kill the imagination of a child. Well, my friends, I finally finished the Egypt game, and I'm finally finishing this vlog. So I had 2 pretty severe migraine attacks in the midst of this vlog, and that kind of set it back a little bit. But the Egypt game, I'm gonna give it about 3 stars as an adult. I don't remember it that well as a kid, but one thing I think it really did was it captured childhood whimsy, and the ending really just showed how much children can inspire adults and old people. But, you know, I'm a teacher. My students inspire me every day, and I absolutely loved that part about it. It did drag a lot in the middle, but going back, the 4 books I read, Time for Andrew, The Man Who Was Poe, The Dollhouse Murders, and the Egypt Game, Time for Andrew just is so amazing. That one was better as a grown-up than it was when I was 11, and it's an all-time favorite, and I might just teach it to my reading class next year. So I hope you guys enjoyed this vlog, and I hope you have a happy Halloween. Go Rangers.